You're in the Stampede, West Virginia Metro News' only show dedicated exclusively to the Thundering Herd. Here's your host, Dave Wilson.
Well, it was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination, but the Thundering Herd pulled it out, a 54-51 win over Rice down in Houston, and it's significant and it's the first win in conference play. It is also significant, if you will, if you want to go that route, go that storyline, that Marshall finally won a game in Texas. Kind of a statistical anomaly, but Marshall got that monkey off its back. And I think this team has turned a corner in the fact that it no longer, I don't want to say a given when it goes on the road, but there for a while during the Mark Snyder era, going on the road was pretty much a sure loss. Marshall only won a couple of games on the road, but I think Marshall has now shown it can go on the road, in the conference, and win a ball game. It did it last year. It's done it this year. Last year, go back to the Memphis game. This game, not all that different, if you will, than that Memphis game. It wasn't pretty, because you remember the Memphis game, but that was a game in which the defense kept it in it. The defense kept Marshall in the ball game, gave the offense a chance to win the game. Well, it's kind of a 180 this year. Marshall can score points. It can put up the yards. Number one passing offense in the country. 7th in total offense. 16th in scoring offense. But the defense needs the help this year. The offense kept the defense in the game this year, gave the team a chance to win the ball game at the end. That's exactly what happened. Marshall's defense got just enough of a stop twice in that game. It forced Rice to kick a field goal in the second half, forced Rice to kick a field goal in that second overtime. Did just enough to give the offense a chance to win the ball game, and the offense did. The offense also got the running game going. Kevin Grooms, Remy Watson, Stuart Butler running the ball, going up the middle, making the defense commit a little bit, because Rice had come into the game prepared to stop the pass. The Owls knew that Marshall was averaging 380-some passing yards per game. They knew Rakeem Cato was the number one passer in the country. And the Owls were determined to stop the passing game, so they were dropping 8 guys. And Marshall finally got the running game started. Now, if the Herd can continue that throughout the season against Purdue, against Southern Miss, against East Carolina, against UCF, that's a pretty potent offense. There are a ton of options for Rakeem Cato to throw the ball to. Take your pick: Antavius Wilson, Aaron Dobson, Tommy Schuler, Jazz King, any of those tight ends, Gator Hoskins, C.J. Crawford, Eric Frohnapple. So the defense can't game plan to stop one of those receivers, throw in a running game, and now you've got a really potent offense. The question is, can the defense catch up? And it's not a problem unique to Marshall by any stretch of the imagination. It's pretty well all over Conference USA as far as defenses go. And I thought Chuck McGill, the sports editor for the Charleston Daily Mail, did a pretty good job of summing that up in his column this week in the Daily Mail about Conference USA just not being that good so far this year. 12-30 overall in the first 4 weeks. 9-27 in conference games. The other non-BCS leagues, again, faring much better than that. Chuck does a great job of summing it up. 2/3 of Conference USA, Chuck says, not only has a losing record, but the bottom 8 teams have a combined 3-24 mark. You want to find the worst defenses in the country? You'll find them in Conference USA. Marshall's among them. Marshall, Rice, Houston, SMU. Those are the 4 worst defenses in the country. You find them in Conference USA. They've allowed over 500 yards of total offense per game. And Chuck makes a pretty compelling argument that this season, Marshall probably is not ready to contend for a Conference USA title. But the league is weak enough that it can. The league is weak enough. We've seen Southern Miss get beat. East Carolina, all these schools get beat, that Marshall could contend for a conference title by the end of the year. Now, why is the league so weak? I don't know if I can answer that question. It might have something to do with several of the established head coaches moving on. Kevin Sumlin, for instance, moving on. Larry Fedora moving on. A couple of examples. That may have something to do with it. I don't know. I don't have the answer. But I do know that Chuck is right. This conference is wide open because these teams are giving up over 500 yards per game. Those four defenses I mentioned there, Rice, Houston, SMU, Marshall still has to play Houston. It'll take on a Southern Miss team whose defense is right down there with them. East Carolina is in the bottom 90. It can move the ball. If it can get a defense that can just hold the opposition enough, Marshall could be pretty successful. Now, this week it's going to be a tall order. The Thundering Herd goes to Purdue to take on the Boilermakers. And where Marshall has struggled has been stopping the run. You look at Marshall's rushing defense, 112th in the country, 243 yards a game. Going up against a Purdue team that rushed for ran for 392 yards against Eastern Michigan, racked up 576 yards of total offense in that ball game. And that's Big Ten football. Line it up, run them at them, and see who the bigger man is going to be. Now, the Marshall defensive players, when you talk to them, when you talk to Jermaine Holmes, you talk to Devin Arrington, Jeremiah Taylor, they'll all tell you we're getting better. We're playing more as a unit. We've got to play sound assignment responsibility football. But will that be enough this week against a big, and I mean big, Purdue offensive line in a Big Ten atmosphere? Maybe, maybe not. Will it be enough to get through the rest of the Conference USA schedule? Quite possibly. We'll see. This is the last non-conference game of the season. Then it's all conference games for the Thundering Herd. Of course, we'll have post-game coverage from Purdue at the website, wvmetronews.com. I'll be in West Lafayette on Saturday, so we'll have pictures, video, audio, the whole 9 yards coming up Saturday at the website, wvmetronews.com. Follow me on Twitter, wvmetro_D Wilson, and email me anytime. If I like you, I will reply to the email. Right, Tyler? Right. dwilson@wvradio.com is my email address. Again, post-game coverage coming up this week from Purdue at the website. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.